Top 10 states with the best drivers. A lot of people try to say that the drivers in their state are the worst in the country. However, most of these people might be surprised to know that their home actually ranks in the top 10 states with the best drivers. If you think your state's drivers are bad, try visiting one of the countries where they use their horns more than they use their turn signals. There are very different rules of the road elsewhere. After that, you might be able to appreciate the calmer type of driving found here in the States. If your state happens to be on this list, then you are likely enjoying some of the lowest insurance rates in the country, though that is not guaranteed. Before we begin though, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel for more interesting top 10 videos. Now, here are the top 10 states with the best drivers. Number 10, Texas. Coming in at number 10, Texas has some of the best drivers around. Although it is ranked at number 10, the state is actually by far the biggest state on the list, so the amount of drivers on the road is much higher. The Lone Star State is a bit of a conundrum though when it comes to the statistics. The percentage of vehicle-related fatalities is actually above the national average, while the percentage of drivers that get into at-fault accidents or receive speeding tickets is around 11% under the national average. That being said, some of those fatalities seem to have not been because of careless driving. With over 17 million licensed drivers on the road, and some possibly even unlicensed, Texans must be pretty darn good at driving to make it onto this list. Even though the state as a whole has some pretty great drivers, a recent study done by the Houston Chronicle listed Houston as the most dangerous city for vehicle-related accidents and injuries. Yikes. The number one cause of driving accidents in Texas comes down to intoxicated drivers on the road. It's even said that every 20 minutes there is an alcohol-related death on one of Texas's many roadways. This, in turn, is why the penalties for driving under the influence in Texas are so steep, with a fine of $2,000 and 180 days in jail. So always remember the saying, whether you're in Texas or anywhere else, stay alive, don't drink and drive. Number 9, New Jersey. When you think of New Jersey, what comes to your mind? Bruce Springsteen? Snooki? Maybe even Bon Jovi? How about the fact that Jersey has some of the best drivers in the whole country? With just over 6 million local licensed drivers, the Garden State sees a lot of extra drivers making their regular work commute into either New York or Philadelphia because of Jersey's close proximity to both hubs. Despite the heavy traffic though, New Jersey has a relatively low percentage for fatal car accidents per driver as well, seeing only 6.3 drivers getting into fatal accidents per every 100,000. However, even with its pretty good track record, residents of the state don't get to enjoy lowered insurance premiums. This is due to the fact that New Jersey is a no-fault state, meaning that if you get into an accident with someone else who is texting and driving and rammed into the back of your car, your insurance company would have to pick up at least part of the tab. Number 8, Arizona. Taking the number 8 spot on this list, Arizona is often thought of as a barren desert because of the fact that it's home to one of the wonders of the world, the Grand Canyon. However, with just over 5 million licensed drivers, the state is very close to New Jersey's level in terms of driving population. Arizona has a very low percentage for speeding tickets and fatal accidents for a few different reasons. One of the biggest being it has some of the strictest speeding laws in the country. Traveling 20 miles over the speed limit in the province could run you out of $500 or more, and up to 30 days in jail. For this reason, the percentage of drivers who have never been in an accident is 19.77%, which is well below the national average. Like with many other states in this country, drivers under the influence account for about 30% of fatal crashes in Arizona. In fact, the accidents caused by drivers under the influence in 2011 had an economic impact of over $2 billion. That's a lot of candy bars. Number 7, Connecticut. Perhaps one of the most fun names to say, that also happens to be just as hard to spell, Connecticut takes the 7th spot on this list. As the home of Yale University and the Peabody Museum, the state is rich with history, and even more abundant with good drivers. As one of the smallest states on this list, Connecticut happens to have just over 2 million licensed drivers on its roadways. That's almost 15 million fewer drivers on the road than Texas. For this reason, Connecticut has some of the safest drivers around. In fact, Connecticut has the lowest percentage of drivers who have received speeding tickets in the entire country. With only 8 drivers per 100,000 getting into fatal accidents, the drivers in this state truly earn their spot on this list. The only problem with the state's driving record is that their percentage of at-fault driving accidents is around 10% over the national average. However, even with the lower amounts of drivers on the road, Connecticut earns its keep. Number 6, West Virginia. Often called the Mountain State because of, well, mountains. Virginia's drivers must be pretty good at navigating through the mountainous terrain. On top of this, West Virginia actually has the smallest driver population on this entire list. With just barely over 1 million drivers on the road, it's no surprise that they made it so high on this list. Although the statistics are fairly great, the thing holding it back is its rate of vehicle-related fatalities, which is the 8th worst in the entire country. For every 100,000 drivers, 16.3 of them were involved in a bad accident. But don't let that fool you though. Both the percentages of speeding tickets per driver and at-fault accidents rank top 10 in the entire country. Unlike other states, the teens in this province only need to have a learner's permit for 6 months before they can apply for their driver's license. The state mandates that at least 50 hours of practice time with a legal guardian. Compared to the year-long wait teens in other states have to practice during, it is a much more lenient policy. Number 5, Florida. Florida is oftentimes seen as a bit of a wild card state. With all the Florida Man headline internet memes and the plethora of visiting tourists, one might not expect Florida to rank so high on this list. Yet, Florida ranks the 5th spot for having the best drivers in the country. Florida has as many as 15 million licensed drivers on the road, and that's not even including the out-of-state tourists. This puts Florida in the same ballpark as Texas, without all the extra room. The percentage of drivers in the Sunshine State who have received speeding tickets is actually in the top 10 of the whole country. So no one can say drivers from the South aren't safe. However, Florida ranks pretty low in one of the categories. For every 100,000 drivers, 14.7 of them are involved in a vehicle-related fatality. That is well above the national average. Yikes. The reasoning behind this is because of the I-4. I-4 is an interstate that runs through much of Florida and has frequently been named as the most dangerous highway in America. So the fact that Florida is even on this list is truly a testament to the safe drivers and their hard-working air conditioning. Number 4, Nevada. Nevada makes up yet another state on this list with a very large tourism industry. Though most of the tourism is made up of the gambling capital Las Vegas, there are plenty of other sites in the area that keep drivers moving throughout the province. While the state as a whole ranks reasonably well, the individual town of Las Vegas is actually very dangerous for drivers. Vegas drivers are 21% more likely to get into accidents than the national average, and are estimated to get into a fender bender every 8 years. In the grand scheme of things, Nevada actually has a pretty small driving population, sitting at just under 2 million. Making it the second smallest population on this list. Also, ironically enough, the advocates for highway and auto safety have come out and said that Nevada was behind in adopting 16 of their recommended driving laws, saying that they have only put 6 in place. Yet Nevada sits on this list as the 4th safest area for drivers despite all this. They must have pretty good common sense around there. Number 3, Mississippi. The number of drivers on the road in Mississippi sits just above Nevada at 2,058,036. Just like it sits just above Nevada on this list. The percentage of drivers who have been involved in accidents are very much to thank for that. At 7.98%, it ranks second best out of all the states in the country. The Magnolia State does have pretty interesting traffic laws as well. It is the only state in the whole country that does not have an open container law. There are many cities throughout Mississippi with their own laws prohibiting this practice, but there are countries in the state where you can drive while enjoying a cold one. According to Lieutenant Gary Ricks, a police officer working in one of said counties, says drivers who take part must keep their blood alcohol content under the legal limit of 0.08. If a driver is pulled over with a beer in the cup holder, they will have to take a breathalyzer test to ensure that they are under the legal limit. If they pass, they're free to continue driving. This doesn't affect passengers of a vehicle though. They're allowed to drink as much as they want as long as they're not driving. Oftentimes, areas where this practice is legal see a sharp spike in alcohol-related accidents when compared to other areas with a law in place. Pretty crazy. Number 2, Kentucky. The Bluegrass State is well known for its annual Kentucky Derby horse race, so one might expect that everyone rides their horses around. While I can't disprove this theory completely, there must be enough people driving because it makes the number 2 spot for the best drivers in America. With over 3 million drivers on the road, Kentucky does surprisingly well in the speeding ticket category, with only 6.89% of their drivers having ever received one. But even that's not good enough for Kentucky police, who have started a new program as of June 2020, where they added a lot more police officers on busy highways throughout the state. Better be careful how you drive here. Number 1, Michigan. Surrounded by the Great Lakes of Northern America and adequately named the Great Lakes State, Michigan takes the #1 spot for having the best drivers around. With a driving population of just 7 million, they rank very high in almost every category from speeding tickets to at-fault accidents. Annually, only 1% of accidents in the state end in a vehicle-related fatality, making it the safest place to drive in the US. One of the biggest sources of accidents doesn't exactly come from other cars on the road either. It is said that deers running into the road causes over 50,000 accidents each year. So if you're driving through this state, you'd better hope you have pretty good insurance. Michiganders, yes, that's their unofficial nickname, should be extra wary of rogue deer, specifically between 7 and 8 a.m., which is when the vast majority of deer-related accidents occur. Be careful out on those roads. Were you surprised by any of the states that made it onto this list? Do you agree with the ranking your state got? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to our channel if you liked this video.